All right. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are joining from. Thank you for being here today as part of our collective commitment to increase student success in higher education. My name is Josue Romualdo, and I serve as the Community of Practice Manager here at Excelencia in Education. On behalf of Excelencia, I'd like to welcome you to our first national webinar titled Elevating What Works. First national webinar of 2026, Elevating What Works for Latino and All Students, a conversation with practitioners leading successful programs. We are looking forward to a robust conversation with program leaders from the 2025 Examples of Excelencia. And to make sure we have enough time, we'll jump right in. Now, today's session will include an overview of Examples of Excelencia and then a panel discussion with the representatives from the programs that have been recognized as the 2025 Examples of Excelencia. Now, some housekeeping items. If you haven't done it yet, we invite you to introduce yourself in the chat by sharing your name, institution, or organization, and then the state where you are joining us from. And please use that chat function to let us know if you have any technical issues, or you can email us at examples@excellencia.org. We'll also have time for Q&A after the panel conversation, and please use that Q&A feature to submit your questions to the panelists. And finally, please know that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel next week. Now, before we continue, and as you continue to introduce yourselves in the chat, I want to take a moment to briefly highlight the team behind Examples of Excelencia. Many of you already know some of us. So we are honored to do this work that brings attention to evidence-based programs across the nation. Now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Adriana Rodriguez. Adriana?
Hi, everyone, and good afternoon or good morning. Thank you, Josue, for that welcome and opening. Glad to have you all here for today's conversation and love to see the chat. We've got folks here from the East Coast to the Midwest and to the West. So happy to have you all here. Before we get started, though, I want to share a little bit about Examples of Excelencia for our audience who may not be familiar with this effort. Examples of Excelencia is an annual process by which Excelencia in Education identifies and promotes programs with evidence of effectiveness in increasing Latino student success amongst all served, and by doing so, really facilitate access to excellence for all students. Since the inception of Examples of Excelencia in 2005, more than 2,000 program profiles have been submitted for consideration, and over 400 programs have been highlighted by Excelencia. The large number of evidence-based practices nominated and shared with us show that there's a significant body of existing practices increasing Latino student success across the country in very intentional and responsive ways. Examples is a compilation of these practices and serves as a resource for all of you, for other institutions, for community-based organizations, funders, and many more stakeholders considering who are looking to consider how to improve services to Latino and all students. So therefore, sharing student-centered, evidence-based practices is an opportunity to show what is possible so that good work can be invested in, replicated, and scaled to serve more students. So by joining today, we thank you for being part of this conversation and the momentum to move this work forward. The 4 programs you'll meet today are amongst a larger group of programs and practices Excelencia is recognized, as I've mentioned, across 2 decades of this work. At the end of this conversation, as Josue mentioned, we'll share how you can learn more and stay engaged, both with Excelencia and the programs you'll hear from today. So thanks again for being here. So let's talk to let's meet the programs we're going to be talking to today. Now that I shared that overview, I wanted to have you all meet our most recently recognized programs, the 4 Examples of Excelencia from 2025. At the associate level, we have representing General Motors Automotive Service Educational Program at Cerritos College in California. We welcome Joe Maleri, Department Chair of Automotive Technology. At the baccalaureate level, representing Andale Latino Research Training Program at California State University, Long Beach in California, please meet Malawi Garcia, Associate Professor and Director of the Center for Latino Community Health, Evaluation, and Leadership Training. And at the graduate level, representing Crossing Latinidades Humanities Research Initiative at University of Illinois, Chicago in Illinois, Please meet Olga Herrera, Managing Director of the program. Then for the example that's at the community-based organization level, being represented as Avanza RGV, Accelerating Latino Prosperity Through Education and Career Pathways. This is a program implemented by the Valley Initiative for Development and Advancement, or VIDA, located in Texas. And we welcome Velida Villarreal, President and CEO of the organization. So that is our wonderful panel that we have for you all today. And the team that's working the magic behind the scenes has brought their wonderful faces and not just their photos onto the screen for all of you to meet. And so we're glad you are all here, and we're glad our panel is here to help us learn more about the work that they're doing at their institutions, organizations. So let's get started. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. I've had the chance to talk with these folks, and I know they're going to share some insights for our community today on what they're doing in very different ways and some similar ways. So we'll talk about some of those commonalities and differences as we get going in our conversation. And so one of the things we have heard from these programs that they're doing a lot of things to help their students. And undoubtedly, anytime we're working with students, we're giving our 100% and providing what we can. So, but for today's conversation, I wanted to kick off the conversation and having each of you talk about if you could highlight one of those things, one thing your program is doing that you feel is increasing your Latino and all student success, what would it be? So just sharing that one thing amongst all you're doing. And for this one, we'll start with Joe at the associate level. Joe?
Thanks, Adriana. So the one thing for us in our program is really wraparound services for our students. We have a cohort model. So really, connecting students, which are mostly first generation students in our area to, get batch enrolled, to have specific counselors work with them. Are just some of those examples.
Thanks, Joe. And I'm just going to go down the line here instead of by level, just going to look at next on my little blocks over here on Zoom. So Olga, I have you next. So at Crossing Latinidades, what's one, and again, knowing you all are doing many things, what's maybe one thing you see as making a difference in the outcomes you're having for your Latino students?
Thank you, Adriana. One of the things for Crossing Latinidades, a program of research, training, and professionalization, I think the most important thing is our fellowship. It is a 9-month offering of $30,000 for doctoral students in their second or third year. And we support the completion of dissertation proposals in order to continue to ensure persistence and retention and moving these doctoral students through the pipeline.
Great, thank you. So I got cohort models. We've got some fellowship that comes with some dollars tied to it that Olga's sharing. So key things there. And next on the screen, I have here Malawi Garcia. Thank you from Long Beach. Why don't you share a little bit about your one thing at Andale?
Yes, thank you for inviting me today. Excited to share with everyone about Andale Latino Training Program. Again, we're the undergraduate training program at Cal State Long Beach in California. So there's a lot of things we do that I feel are really good practices, but one thing I want to highlight today is structured faculty mentoring is very important to our program. We do have a short 9-week program, also a cohort model, but students meet faculty early on in their summer training, and then they go on to work with them in the fall. Faculty mentors are usually really engaging and prepared and like to work with Latino and other students, but we also provide them with a structured mentor checklist where there's certain key things they must address with the students at each meeting. And we have found this super helpful in identifying student needs, barriers to their academic success. So of course we cover academics, career planning, research progress and interests, but one thing that we always want to be covered is life and well-being of first gen and Latino students at CSU. With this talking point, we often identify issues that the students won't usually open up about. So family responsibilities, rules, curfews, not being able to stay out late for studying, or having parents' pressure of helping financially and working more than being on campus. So we try to work with students, being first gen ourselves and knowing what that struggle was like, many years ago. So having students set boundaries with their parents, informing them about the importance of studying, the importance of staying late, and the importance of graduate degrees. So really being able to address that with the students and talking directly about things affecting their life is very important to us.
Thank you, Malawi. So thanks for giving us some of those touch points about, it's one thing to say faculty mentoring, but a little bit like what some of the conversation looks like. And then so that's great. And hopefully I know many people are taking notes, probably. I'm taking my little notitas here. So I'm sure people will want to follow up with all of you as we get through this conversation. You're going to share some great insights. So that was great. So Felida, as we come to you to close us out on the one thing your program is doing to increase Latino student success amongst all being served, what would you say?
Yes, thank you for having me. So definitely similar to what has been previously been shared, I would definitely highlight our intensive case management model. So we service the Rio Grande Valley, which is comprised of 4 counties, right, and the southernmost tip of Texas. And so there's a lot of barriers that our student population faces from, 84% of our students identify as first generation college, and 100% of the student population that we serve is low income. And so understanding that there's a lot of non-academic barriers that directly impact their ability to succeed in higher ed is something that plays a crucial part in their journey. And that's something that we have dedicated staff, which are our career counselors and navigators, that are tasked with meeting with them on a weekly basis to keep them encouraged, keep them motivated, but at the same time, address a lot of these barriers. And so with that, I'm very proud to say that we maintain a 90% persistence rate year to year and an average graduation rate of 83%, far exceeding the national averages at colleges and universities. And so definitely that case management, that career guidance and counseling is what plays a huge part in our student success.
Thank you, Felida, and thank you all for kind of sharing. I'm hearing cohort models, but an engagement around, conversations with students around things they're experiencing. Olga, you're talking about getting folks through what can sometimes be like a scary process of, whether again, so from first stepping in the door of college all the way up, through our graduate pipeline, right? There's lots of just areas where students will need that support, knowledge base. But what I'm really hearing the common thread there is that relationship. It sounds like all of you are really getting to know your students well and helping them build relationships with, your institutions or with trusted adults in the environment. Joe, whether it's their automotive partner, whatever, whoever it is that they're working with, that folks are building those relationships to support students. So thank you all for sharing that. And now this wouldn't be an Excelencia conversation. So as we transition to our next topic, it wouldn't be one without talking about data, right? That's, Excelencia's pillars or leadership, data, and practice. So in terms of, as we have this conversation about practices, we want to hear about also the evidence of effectiveness that I described in my opening that allows us to talk about evidence-based practices. You all have showed in your answers there's intentionality or the practice, but you also have taken steps to figure out how to measure, your outcomes, student outcomes, outcomes for your program, to share its effectiveness with others. So if you all could share, what are some of the evidence, what are some of the metrics, things, the outcomes that you all have experienced and been able to share with others that show that your program is having a positive impact on students? So for this one, why don't we go in the reverse order? Felida, we'll start off with you and I'll go back around here.
Sure. Yeah. So our organization is very evidence and data driven. So we actually partner with our local university for an economic impact study every couple of years. And the most recent study that we rolled out shows that for every dollar invested in Vida, there's a return on investment of over $15 to the communities that we serve, right? And that's measured through the earnings impact, right? The potential growth in earnings that our graduates are seeing upon program completion. In addition to that, measuring credential attainment, graduation, job placement, earnings. Typically what we see is that upon graduation, our graduates increase their annual earnings by almost 200%, which is huge. That it has a huge impact not only on themselves individually, but on their families and on future generations, which is breaking that cycle of poverty, right? And in addition to that, I would also add we're currently in the middle of an RCT, which stands for randomized controlled trial. And so that is known as the gold standard, right, of program evaluation. And so with that, we're hoping that when the study concludes, which will be 3 years from now, the follow-up will actually continue on for another 10 years. And these researchers will be following not only VIDA participants, but a similar pool of participants that are not receiving VIDA services to validate the effect and the impact that VIDA is having on student success and student access. So I would say and emphasize definitely data is a huge part of our daily work here in the organization.
Thank you, Felida, for sharing again from very different things that you're doing to measure. So between the looking at some of the earnings amounts, but also then being able to partner on a longitudinal study and kind of looking at that impact. So going back around, and again, we'll talk more about some of the data too later, but Malawi, how about for you all at Andale?
Yeah, so Andale has been funded by the USDA. They have an emphasis on training the future human health workforce to address chronic disease prevention. So they have criteria for evaluation. So we collect application, pre-data, post-data, and also 1-year follow-up. And also we use institutional data on our campus, which is definitely an asset to being able to compare our students to other Latino and non-Latino students in our programs. So in terms of some of our evidence, we surpassed our recruitment goals. We had 100% retention in our program. The majority of our students got really excited about research and continued research either with their faculty mentors or started to identify new opportunities because they started to see themselves as researchers, which is also something we measured, the sense of fit in major and health. We also saw 100% graduation rates and being on track to graduate. As I mentioned, our Latino students did achieve higher GPAs than their Latino counterparts in the College of Health and Human Services, which includes nutrition, health science, and kinesiology students that were in our program. And then when we asked them about their readiness to apply for graduate school, 90% agree that they are in fact ready and are feeling prepared to take that next step. That usually means we also help them with letters and things like that to prepare them. Other measures that we've seen, we saw benefits in research experience, increases in learning experiences, like I said, sense of fit, increases in the Latino cultural knowledge and health, which is the focus of our program. They're feeling more prepared to serve Latinos in their fields. And then, of course, we did see high satisfaction with the program, areas of training, research, and mentorship. Thank you.
So thanks for also comparing some, like you talked institutional rates, retention, and completion, but also some of those qualitative things like how they're feeling or how prepared, and so it's good to hear from you all about just as Veli that had diverse data points, you all are doing them so as well. And again, I'm sure the audience will have lots of questions about how you're doing it, so maybe we can share some of that later. So Olga coming around, following my little Zoom squares here. How about you all at Crossing Latinidades?
Okay, with Crossing Latinidades, when we designed the program, we looked at data and the attrition of PhDs that was happening in the second and third year. And our program really responds to that to make sure that we provide a solution and provide support for the cohort of 30 students that we train every year. So because it's a PhD support program, we track ABD completion by the end of the fellowship year, and that is all but dissertation. During the year of the fellowship, our participants, fellows, complete comprehensive examinations and also write dissertation proposals. We provide support all the way through workshops, through professionalization, as well as monthly check-ins, just to make sure that they're not alone. There is one big issue with PhDs at this stage, and this is the issue of feeling lonely, feeling removed from a classroom and just being on your own. So that's something that we make sure that we're providing the support through our writing lab, as well as different workshops and speaker series with different talks. What we do track, as I say, is the ABD. So our rate is about 90%. We have had 4 cohorts. Fortunately, no one has dropped out of the PhD, which is a total success for us. And the AVD with 90%, I think that we've been seeing that the support from us and the support at their universities are really taking a big impact in terms of continuing this and strengthening this pipeline towards Latino studies scholars.
Thank you all. And I think I appreciate also, again, each of you are giving nuance to how you did your data collection. You started with what was it before we started the program, right? So you had a kind of like a baseline to say, here's where we're at. And now you can see what the difference the program has made. So that's great. Joe, why don't you close us out on our data conversation about y'all's look at metrics?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so for our GMASA program over the last 4 years, our course success rate has been 91%. Now, within our department as a whole, which we have a large automotive department here, as a whole, our department still has a high success rate of about 82% over that same time frame. But compared to the college as a whole, which is in the low 60s during that same time frame, speaking to what some of the other panelists have mentioned, our cohort model, which has really, it helps that we as instructors know our students. We keep track with them on a regular basis. I know every single one of them. I know roughly where they live, where they went to high school. I know where they work because I know all their managers. So it's all these kinds of things that really help to ensure that the students, once they start, are going to continue, because they've got to be, they've got to do well at the school side of things, but also when it comes to employment.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you. I don't know if y'all can see, but we got really lively chat, people introducing, but also cheering you on. We're seeing lots of good works in the chat because really, wow. I mean, those are some impressive data points you all have shared with the community today. And again, I'm sure people are like, how did you do it? Both how did you collect the data, but also how did you achieve those results? So love to, I could talk data with you all day, but I know we've got to get on to some other topics. And that goes to, a little bit about how you all got started, right? So I think because a lot of people are like, how did you set up your program? How did you design it? How are you getting these results? And you guys shared in some of your practices in the opening and talked about, Joe, you kind of closed this out again, talking about those relationships and really knowing your students. But if you all could talk about, what were some of the keys to success, as the programs got implemented, and I know some of you were there from the beginning, some not, but if you know about your programs and how they started, what were some key things that set you all up for success in getting this, getting to where you are today? So for this one, I'm going to swing down to Malawi and get us going with Andale.
Sure. Yeah. So our training programs actually started in 2007. So there has been a lot of lessons learned. We've implemented small 2-year programs with undergrads, training programs within research programs, and then our most recent program is a 5 HSI collaboration with 2 CSUs and community colleges. So the thing that we have done best, I think, is really tracked our lessons learned and best practices to figuring out what's going to work, and then trying to figure out models that are also a helpful framework to track our progress and development. So high impact practices for student training, I think I recommend for the audience, where you can really take a menu of things that you can measure and work towards. One of these, for example, is setting expectations for students, right? Like you get them excited about joining, but then they realize, oh, this is a lot of work. I have to attend meetings, I have to train, I have to collect data or so forth. So we have contracts for students where we first select them to say, like, here's all the benefits, but then here's your responsibilities as a student. You must attend, you must be on time, you must be alert, so there's different things. That's a good example of just figuring out a framework that you can use as a guide and also measurement. So our program manager, our associate director, Natalia, has authored a paper on these high impact practices in Andale that we've submitted for publication. So I'll definitely share it with Excelencia, but I think that best practices, and then also aside from that, is really selecting the faculty mentors carefully. The faculty mentors that work with us are people who are culturally responsive to student needs, who are excited about working with non-traditional researchers, right? First-gen students, minority students, and they really do see the value of their contributions to the work that they're doing. So I think the staff, the faculty mentors, and then the best practices and frameworks are super helpful to us.
Great, thank you, Malloy. And yeah, I'm sure, definitely when you guys go out to publication and have some of that, we'll be happy to also be able to share that with our community. That's great. For this one, let me also just pivot over to Olga to talk a little bit about what were some of the keys at the graduate levels. Again, we just heard from the undergraduate level, the graduate level. What are you all, what was key to get, this your effort going?
Yes, Crossing Latinidades was inspired by a program that we run at UIC, the Inter-University Program for Latino Research Dissertation Completion Fellowship. So this was a very small, 4 universities participating, usually 6 students that participated in the last year of their PhD to complete dissertations and also go into the job market. And that really gave us the idea that we could scale up this program and make it into Crossing Latinidades, working with Research One Hispanic serving institutions. Currently, we have relationships with 20 universities, but really the success of the program, I think it's based on the buy-in of presidents and chancellors in the creation of a consortium, bringing together these 20 universities, convincing the universities and the presidents, chancellors, to provide tuition and fee waivers, and for us to provide the stipend. So the students could spend the 9 months just writing, preparing for exams, and completing dissertation proposals. But the other thing that is very important for us here is the support of the Mellon Foundation. We received, we're on the second grant that supports our program and the implementation. And also, as well, the success has to do with similar activities as in Malawi's case with professors and faculty mentors for research placements. So it's a large group. It's a village, really, that supports our initiative and makes it successful.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was going to say, like, from funders to faculty, I mean, you guys have, to the students, the families themselves, and I know, and Joe and Feli, then learning more about your programs, I know you all have wide stakeholder engagement as well, so we'll speak to you all in the next question, but I appreciate that what you all shared, I think gives mirrors and some of the setup that, Olga, like you said, it's not done alone, right? It does take kind of the commitment of folks to get your programs up and running, and then also, stay the course. So for Joe and Feli, that we're going to move on to another question and kind of hear from you all. Because Examples of Excelencia looks at the intentionality at serving our Latino student population, not at the exclusion of other groups, but really leaning into what are some of the things that are, working as in response to the needs of these students amongst all your serving. And so, here is our 2025 examples. You guys were recognized for this work. But how, folks were to ask you, how do you balance the notion of intentionally serving Latino students amongst all your serving? So for this one, Joe, we'll start with you and then go over to Feli to answer this.
Sounds good. So yes, in our area, roughly 2/3 of our students are Latino students, and which we realize that most of our students are first generation college students. And so a big part of that when they're coming in is we realize that they may not have the guidance when it comes to academia and who to go to and admissions and all this kind of stuff, right? Counseling. So we really focus our attention to students, knowing that they probably haven't been given all this guidance, and even though sometimes before students start our program, we end up meeting with their families because they want to see if this is something that they want to really support, and so that's a key thing. Even though most of our students, yes, are Latino, we really work with them closely because they are first time, college students, and we realize that.
Thanks, Joe. So that broader moniker, it's the first gen, is really the support for the first gen population that you've seen is really leaning into that, as well as, because again, the intersectionality, Latinos aren't, just one thing. We also, Latino students are also not a monolith. So really getting to those connections help you guys have those conversations and support. And so, Feli, what about in the Rio Grande Valley?
Yeah, so similar to Joe, we don't view serving Latino students as being exclusive. On the contrary, we view it as being inclusive and responsive to the needs of our community. So the Rio Grande Valley is comprised of about 90% Latinx. And so that's reflective of our student body. And so understanding what the needs are, most of them come from low income backgrounds, most of them have family responsibilities. And so they really, need this financial support to pay for their studies, to pay for their academic journey, support for childcare, for transportation. And so we know that in the long run, these services and these support systems that are helping Latino students succeed will help all other students across the board succeed, right? And so really elevating that impact and really just being responsive overall to the needs of our community.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So it's really that it's a community response, not really targeting any one population, but that the population, the community is who you're all serving. And it happens to, especially in your case, be predominantly Latinx. So I think that's well-rounded way to think about in terms of your service areas and that commitment to community, that's that local community. Anything, Ogo, Malawi, you guys have anything you'd want to add before we go on maybe to the next question? Whoever
For
wants to unmute, yeah.
Okay, for Crossing Latinidades, one of the things that allow us to serve Latino students and others is that our concentration and focus is the field of Latino studies, generating knowledge. So we're very excited that indeed we do have first generation, we do have DACA students, and it's very exciting for us to demystify. That's something that as PhDs, we have these horrible stories that we're able to share and also provide support to our participants. But it is really something that makes a difference. We have students, participants from Turkey, from Poland, from other countries that are looking at the field of Latino studies and Latinos in the US as a focus of study. So we're really excited about that.
I just want to add to what Olga said. We also have the focus of Latino health in chronic disease prevention. And we're in California, right? So no matter if you're a Latino student or non-Latino, you're going to be serving and providing health services to Latinos. So we start with the importance of knowing your future patients, right? Knowing the culture and the importance of having a diverse workforce. So getting to know Latino students and working with them. So I think the focus helps us, but I think also the individualized and tailored support allows us to serve Latinos and their specific needs that are sometimes very similar to the non-Latino students' needs as well.
Yeah, so appreciate it. So I think like for, Joe, I feel like that we got the community context, but I think both Olga and Malawi, you guys talked about the career connection, like the field connection of like this is the community that the field is exploring. And then, Malawi say future patients. I mean, it doesn't get more more directed than that these are the future patients that or communities that your students will be working in. So that's a direct connection. So thank you all for all those answers. Moving on into a conversation around sustainability and kind of keeping the work going. I wanted to ask you all, what approaches have you taken to sustain the program? And for everybody here who's listening to you, what are some things you think they could do? What are some of the things that you're doing you think could be replicated? So for this one, why don't we start with Felida and then maybe go over to Olga.
Yeah, so for sustainability, I would definitely highlight having a diversified funding portfolio. So currently our organization receives federal funding from the Department of Labor. We also have, several grants that come from the governor's office. And of course the private sector as well. We have numerous, nationwide foundations that see the impact and have the trust to invest in our program. And then lastly, and more importantly, I would definitely highlight the value of having local support, right? So your regional, local supporters, stakeholders, for us, it happens to be local city governments. regional economic development entities that have seen historically our impact, the value that we bring to the community. We've been around now for over 30 years, and we have almost every single city in the region, if not the city, their economic development entity partner invest in our program. And so that has definitely helped us sustain our program over the years and also leverage external support, because I feel that that's a very important factor for consideration for external funders. So when national foundations see the level of investment from your local community, that definitely validates the impact and the value of the work that you're completing.
Thank you, Feliz. Thank you for giving us that background of funding. Olga, about what for you all? I think what would be replicable and what's helping sustain.
I think that the model is replicable because that is our start, the way that we look at the previous project that we have, program that we had, and we're able to replicate it and scale it up. One of the big considerations that we're having right now and conversations is about sustainability, indeed, because we're funded by the Mellon Foundation, by the support of the various universities. So we're looking into the program to see if the universities can really embrace the program, the part of the fellowship and we could provide the professionalization, the writing lab, and the workshops. So that's something that will pass most of the cost to the universities, participating universities. We have received inquiries from students at other universities who are willing to participate in our summer institute, and they indicate that their universities will pay for it. So we're excited about that. We're looking at all possibilities because, of course, funding is a big issue for us. But we do see a way that we can continue it, stressing and supporting students by the different components.
Thank you, Olga. Joe or Malawi, anyone, I know we'll go round robin real quick on the next question, but if either of you had something you wanted to add that you think is replicable, we have brief, you can make brief statements on it. Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, I can add something. So our program is one of 53 programs nationwide, and General Motors is actively trying to expand that as well. There's 3 programs we're one of 3 programs in the state. So they're already out there. But the nice thing is that from a brand standpoint, General Motors is becoming more flexible with individual schools in terms of how they run it, because some states operate differently in terms of the degrees and units, that kind of stuff. And then even in terms of how many weeks their semester is. The sustainability part, though, it is becoming more and more difficult to find instructors. So just like their technicians or a lot of hands-on trades, there's a serious demand for them, but there's also, when it comes to teaching those, it's also becoming more difficult to find those people. So we have had great success in finding graduates of our program come back, and some of them are still working in the field and come back in the evening, let's say, to work with us part-time. That's been a key success for sustaining it long term.
Thank you. That alumni involvement. Thanks for relevating. I know that sometimes for other programs we've talked to, that alumni involvement is really key. Malawi, anything you'd like to add before we go to our round robin question?
I think everything's been covered. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, so this is the round robin, real fast answer round here on one of my favorite questions. If I had a magic wand, or if I could shake a money tree and just drop money into your programs for you all, and you got this new infusion of funds, how would you invest it in your program? So whoever wants to unmute first, and real quick, top of brain, you're sitting with a funder. What do you ask for?
I'll tackle it first.
Oh, California folks are both
sorry. It would be scholarships for students, 2 scholarships for students, because that's a barrier that a lot of people don't see getting into the hands-on field like this.
Great.
I agree. I was going to say increase the funding amount for students for them to get stipends and then travel to conferences.
Yeah. And I think I've heard in your scholarship, you're also mentioning tools, right? Because I think the tools for the automotive you had said is really expensive. And so for Malawi, for your researchers, the travel to be able to present the work, right, is also expensive. So those career connection pieces that may not be covered, by the direct student tuition are ways that you all are supplementing and then need to need to get that funding for. Felida, I saw you unmute next.
Yeah, so for us, I would definitely say the ability to hire more career counselors, so the individuals that are directly providing that invaluable support, that guidance, that mentorship that students so many times are lacking and really need in order to have them be successful in higher ed.
Thank you. And Olga?
I definitely would invest new funds into new and additional fellowships to keep on supporting new cohorts of students and make them successful and see them all the way as professors in academia.
All right, so whether it's getting them another trusted adult or direct student funding, it's still all right into student support. Appreciate that. Well, it's been wonderful talking with you all and hearing, again, every time I hear about your programs, I learn something new, and I just have such affinity for the work that you're doing. But we have very active chat and a lot of questions in the Q&A. So we're going to hear from our audience today. And with this one, I think I need to turn to Cynthia to help give me some help with the questions that have come in.
Thank you, Adriana. You are correct. A lot of great questions. We'll do our best to tackle as many as we can. We also appreciate our panelists for doing also their best to respond in a concise way. And if we are not able to address all the questions, we will still save them and share them with the panelists, and they may be able to get back to you after the webinar. So we appreciate your patience. So let's start with the first one. It was mentioned by one of you, but in case anybody else has more information to share, and you go for any of the panelists, do any of your opportunities provide scholarship or fellowships or money to DACA students?
I'm going to go. Yes, we do provide the fellowships to DACA. That was something that from the very beginning, we look at other foundations. We looked at the Ford Foundation, what they were offering with their previous pre-doctoral fellowships. So we included DACA. We're very proud. We support them all the way, and they're just absolutely fantastic and succeeding.
For us at Cerritos, I don't know if we specifically target DACA students, but we do have a lot of scholarships available for students, especially who are working in the field. So, for example, we partner with the Greater LA New Car Dealers Association, and there are a lot of other opportunities from in automotive for students that are working in the field.
Thank you, Joe.
Cal State Long Beach, we do have a Dream Success Center that has scholarships for DACA students. We haven't had any on our program, but we know they are available for students to get engaged in similar opportunities.
For us as well, really anyone that is eligible to work in the U.S., our application and our eligibility is entirely open and free of charge to them.
Thank you all for the answers. So the next question, trying to move on really fast. How does the mentorship program work? And it would be for Malawi. Is it through peers, faculty, or dedicated staff?
I'm sorry, Cynthia, can you repeat the question?
Sure, yeah. How does the mentorship program work? Is it through peers, faculty, or dedicated staff?
A little bit of everything. So as the PI, I've been doing this for a long time, and then my program manager, we mentor the students. We see them at different time points, but they are assigned to one specific faculty mentor to work with for 9 weeks. So they get to know them really well. They also get training from faculty in our 1-week training. So they meet all of the faculty and are exposed to different research. And then just by natural design, our Center for Latino Health has students that are undergrad volunteers, paid research assistants from different programs. So the Andale students will work alongside peers or graduate students, and oftentimes find role models and mentors just naturally working in our programs and develop lifelong friendships. So it's a little bit of everything.
Thank you. And actually, we have several questions related to metrics, how the program measures success. So trying to combine the several questions we have about that. This goes for any of the panelists. You already talked about some of your measures of success, but could you share a little bit more about how you select what to measure, how you're able to demonstrate that your program is successful? Whoever wants to answer. Okay, Milawi.
I'm sorry, I don't want to take up all the space. Just briefly, our academic data, again, it comes from our institution. So we do have, we make requests and get informed consent from students to use to gather their data. We use validated scales that measure student learning and student training. So depending on the type of training, there's like cultural competence scale and sense of fit in the major. So there is key surveys that have been validated and found reliable that can be found online. I also mentioned the high impact practices. So there is publications that kind of walk you through what are the key elements, what should you measure. So we're always looking, whether it's theory of change or like these high impact practices, looking to see how can we best measure and track what we're doing. And then of course, process evaluation of satisfaction, retention, attendance, that's super important for our programs.
Yeah, we also use institutional research data. I'm sorry. But then also in terms of our specific students, we have like an internal site where we keep track of where they're working in terms of what dealerships. So I can even see when students graduate, if they're still working at a General Motors dealership, and sometimes they move out of state or something like that. I can see that data as long as they still stay in the field at one of those, 4,000 dealers nationwide.
For us, we also have a designated person on staff that oversees a lot of the data and KPI metrics as it relates to student data like persistence, graduation, credential attainment, job placement, and earnings. When it comes to more of a comprehensive economic study, we typically partner with the local university who has a specific department, right, on data and economics and studies that are in that nature. And then lastly, for more robust program evaluations like an RCT, there's definitely organizations across the country that specialize in that. We've worked previously with App Global, with economic mobility. And I would also emphasize that currently there is a huge interest from national funders to fund these type of program evaluations. So like, for example, we've partnered with Arnold Ventures, Ascendium Education Group. So definitely a lot of opportunity. I would encourage you all to look at RFPs or open proposals for those opportunities as it relates to evaluations.
Thank you very much. And Feli, actually, I have another question for you. This is regarding the RCTs that you mentioned earlier. And the question is, can you share more information on how you achieved full randomization? Students did not self-select?
Yeah, so currently for us, that is being managed by the third-party group of researchers. So we go ahead and recruit the individuals that would be eligible for our program. We then submit the information to this third-party research team, and they conduct the random assignment. So then they communicate to us who has been admitted in the treatment group and will be receiving VITA services and who received control group, which means we would have to communicate to that participant that we will not be moving forward with their application, unfortunately, but that they can continue, their career journey on their own through other community resources.
Thank you. And this is very interesting one. Let's see the person in the audience said, I hear several of you emphasizing the value of the relational impact on our students' persistence in the data. This requires staff, time, and attention. Our STEM Student Success Program is being asked to scale up by offering our services to more students with no planned additional funding and to consider how AI might play a role. Has this been something you might be asked to consider as you plan ahead? If so, how might you be considering any strategic planning changes for growing and/or considering use of AI?
So actually, that's something that we are currently facing as well. So our organization has grown drastically in the last just 3 to 4 years. We've almost tripled our budget and our team size, and we've almost tripled the amount of students that we're enrolling, right? And so one of the more recent challenges is, although we've added additional support staff, we're still not able to keep up with the influx of applications and students that are interested in enrolling into our program. And one of the current conversations that we're having, because actually we were very excited to be one of the grantees from the OpenAI Foundation. So currently we are in discussions and in collaboration with other of the OpenAI grantees. And one of them, we're actually working with them to see if we could develop an AI bot, right, that could help the student navigate from the recruitment up until the enrollment process, right, which is where we're currently facing this bottleneck, where the applications are just sitting there. And by the time one of our staff can get to them, the student has maybe lost interest, has become disengaged. And so adding that AI component is something that we are really hoping could help us get through this a lot better and streamline the process. So I'll definitely keep you updated on how that goes for us.
I think same for us. We're noticing a newly released requests for applications are now calling for, in our case, training of AI for our trainees. Luckily for us at Cal State Long Beach, we do have the California Consortium for Public Health Informatics and Technology, a big grant that allowed us to hire faculty and develop courses. So for our next Andale submission, we are thinking of making sure that students are now provided that training, right? Training in AI, machine learning, long language models to make sure they are competitive to go into the workforce. And similar to Felida, in our research, we're looking at that from working with community clinics, how to help Latinos stay healthy and create behavior change. But chatbots, we have to think about how is that going to be culturally relevant and tailored to people so that they're still engaged. So that's a big gap in this chatbot AI space.
Thank you, Mel.
Plus,
Joe, go ahead.
some of our students are looking into AI as part of the research. Since our recruiting happens at the university level, participating university level, we are not looking into that. But in the classroom, that is a big discussion. What is happening with AI? What is the use for the responsible use by doctoral students? So it's a conversation, but not so much as at the implementation level, except looking at it as a focus of study for research.
Yeah, and for our program, kind of piggybacking on what Felida was saying, I'm getting so many applications now that I do have my program assistant for our department helping out with that because I get so many inquiries. It's hard to always, to respond fairly quickly to them. So I could see the AI piece maybe helping in that way, but we wouldn't be able to scale beyond two cohorts in our program. It's just that nationally they're trying to get more schools on board.
Thank you, Joe. Adriana, I want to make sure that we remain on time. So back to you.
Thank you. I mean, just such wonderful conversation. And I know like in our closing, we'll talk a little bit more about, it's nice to, so timely to end on an AI question because there'll be more coming from Excelencia as we look at AI in the space, especially how it relates to examples of Excelencia. So we'll have Josue talk about that. But just want to thank you all. Again, thank the panel for today's conversation. Thank the audience for being so engaged and great questions that, as Cynthia said, we'll work on following up on those things. But hopefully you were able to hear, couldn't tell you everything about these wonderful programs, but hopefully you got to hear how, they're leveraging data, how they were intentional and how they thought about serving their students, how they built relationships to be able to connect with them and build build practices that are connecting to those needs that they're hearing from as they built those relationships, as well as what they thought about from the beginning and the middle and as they look into the future. So hopefully there was something that you caught on to that either you are like, I could do that tomorrow, or maybe you'll follow up with our wonderful program leaders to think about, have a thought partner about how you do this at your own. Because as Joe said, replication doesn't just, scale doesn't just have to be, we serve more. Replication is another way to get to scale to serving more students across the country. And so hopefully this gives you a sense also of what's possible. Maybe there was something you were like, oh, we need to have a program like that at our campus. And now you have some folks to talk to do that. So we hope it's spurred some ideas, some action steps that you can do to either start or sustain your own programming. So we're so incredibly grateful for this conversation. I'm glad you all could be here and stay tuned for the work that's coming from Excelencia in Education in 2026. So to start us in that direction, I'm going to pass it to Josue to give us some closing announcements and what comes next. So thank you, panel. Thank you, audience. Thanks, Josue.
Thank you, Adriana, and thank you to our panelists. We'll see in just a quick second. Yep, there we go. So, folks, if you are interested in learning more about these exemplary programs, we invite you to visit the 2025 Examples of Excelencia page on our website, where you can read and download these program profiles. And my colleague will drop that in the link momentarily, or it's being dropped now. And if you're looking to learn and possibly connect with other evidence-based programs like the ones we heard from today, please contact us at whatworks@edexcelencia.org, or you can fill out the form that's being dropped in the chat. Our team can curate a list of programs that are aligned with your interests. And continuing on with announcements, on the screen, you're about to see several key dates for our programming in the first few months of 2026. Feel free to take a screenshot if you'd like. The first of that is the call for submissions for the 2026 Examples of Excelencia cycle will open on February 9th and will close on April 21st. If you are interested in submitting a program profile for examples or want to learn more about Examples of Excelencia, join us on February 11th for the Examples of Excelencia submission webinar. More program in February. From February 24th through the 26th, we will host the Sharing Excellence, a workshop to craft stories of impactful programs. This is a series designed to support institutional teams articulate their program impact. So all these registration links will be dropped in the chat. But for more information, scan that QR code on the screen, and then you can access Examples of Excelencia portal, where you will find plenty of information and resources to support your program profile submission. And as we look ahead to the 2026 submission cycle, I'd like to highlight an important update to Examples of Excelencia. Beginning this year, Excelencia is shifting the focus of examples from recognition by academic level to recognition aligned with key issue areas that reflect how institutions are increasing student access and ensuring America's future. Those 4 issue areas for 2026 are AI innovation, career and workforce, teaching and learning, and student support. For more information about these issue areas, we encourage you to visit the page, and you'll see that link in the chat momentarily. And once again, thank you to our four program leaders for joining us today, Joe, Malawi, Olga, and Felida. And we also want to thank all of you for your presence and great questions. We invite you to keep the conversations going by connecting with today's panel and other recognized programs that are doing impactful work. Remember, one more reminder that the recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel next week, and the link to that channel will be dropped in the chat. Stay informed about upcoming events and releases by joining our email list. And of course, if you have any questions, please contact us at examples@edexcelencia.org. It's been energizing to be in common cause with all of you today, and I wish you all a great rest of your day. Thank you.